Scientists just tested ancient medicine, and what they found is kind of unsettling. For thousands of years, Ayurveda was dismissed as folklore, unproven, unscientific, outdated. But recently, researchers started putting these ancient herbs through modern clinical trials. And some of the results don't make sense. We're talking about plants that reduce inflammation like pharmaceutical drugs, improve memory and brain function, and in one case, contain the exact precursor to a Parkinson's medication, thousands of years before neuroscience even existed. Now, this is educational content, not medical advice. Always consult a qualified professional and only use high-quality, tested sources. But today, we're going through 18 Ayurvedic plants that science finally tested, every single one backed by published research. And the final one might be the most powerful adaptogen ever discovered. And if you're into content where ancient wisdom meets modern science, hit subscribe, because this is exactly what we do here on the Green Domain. Let's start with number 1. Number 1. Turmeric, the golden spice. We start with the most researched Ayurvedic plant in the entire history of modern medicine. Turmeric, curcuma longa, has been used in India for over 4,000 years. The Sanskrit name is Haridra, which means the yellow one. In Hindu tradition, turmeric is considered sacred. It is used in wedding ceremonies, religious rituals, and is applied to brides and grooms as a blessing before marriage. Ayurvedic texts describe turmeric as a rasayana, a rejuvenating herb that promotes longevity and purifies the body at every level. It was prescribed for wounds, digestive problems, skin conditions, joint pain, liver complaints, and even as a beauty treatment. Traditional healers painted fresh turmeric paste on cuts, burns, and bruises, and noticed that wounds treated this way healed faster and became infected less often. Here is what makes turmeric remarkable from a research perspective. There are now over 10,000 published scientific studies on turmeric and its primary active compound curcumin. 10,000. No other medicinal plant in history has received this level of scientific attention. A 2020 comprehensive meta-analysis published in the journal Critical Reviews in Food Science and Nutrition analyzed data from multiple randomized controlled trials and confirmed that curcumin has significant anti-inflammatory effects comparable to some pharmaceutical anti-inflammatory drugs, without the gastrointestinal side effects associated with long-term NSAID use. Additional research has shown benefits for arthritis, metabolic syndrome, depression, ulcerative colitis, and even some forms of cancer prevention. A 2019 randomized clinical trial in India found that curcumin formulations significantly reduced fasting blood sugar and HbA1c levels in diabetic patients. Research is also exploring curcumin's potential to cross the blood-brain barrier and reduce amyloid plaque formation associated with Alzheimer's disease. The ancient Ayurvedic texts called it the yellow one. Modern pharmacology calls it one of the most promising natural compounds ever studied. Both are correct. For maximum absorption, always combine turmeric with black pepper. The compound piperine in black pepper increases curcumin bioavailability by up to 2,000%. This is actually a classical Ayurvedic pairing that modern science has fully validated. A typical therapeutic dose is 500 to 1,000 milligrams of curcumin extract daily. Number 2. Ashwagandha, the strength of the stallion. If you have heard of any Ayurvedic herb in the past 5 years, it is almost certainly this one. Ashwagandha, Withania somnifera, has gone from ancient Indian village medicine to becoming one of the best-selling supplements in the world. The Sanskrit name literally means the smell of a horse, referring both to the distinctive odor of the root and the ancient belief that consuming it could give you the strength, stamina, and vitality of a stallion. Ayurvedic texts describe it as one of the most important rasayana herbs used for stress, insomnia, anxiety, weakness, cognitive decline, infertility, and as a general tonic for vitality and longevity. Traditional healers gave it to soldiers before battle, to elderly patients to restore energy, and to couples struggling with fertility. But here is what caught the attention of modern researchers. Ashwagandha is classified as an adaptogen, meaning it helps the body adapt to and resist stress of all kinds, whether physical, mental, or emotional. The concept of adaptogens did not even exist in Western medicine until the 1940s. And modern science has now produced dozens of clinical trials on this single plant. A 2022 randomized trial, published in the Journal of the American Nutrition Association, showed that ashwagandha supplementation significantly reduced cortisol levels, improved sleep quality, and lowered anxiety in adults under chronic stress. The reduction in cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone, averaged around 28%. A 2021 Bayesian meta-analysis published in the Journal of Functional Morphology and Kinesiology found that ashwagandha improved physical performance, muscle strength, and VO2 max in athletes. Additional studies have shown benefits for testosterone levels in men, thyroid function, memory, and even cognitive performance in people with mild cognitive impairment. The smell of a horse. Science says it actually does give you something like the strength of one. Ashwagandha is typically taken in doses of 300 to 600 milligrams of root extract, twice daily. It is generally well tolerated, but should not be used during pregnancy or by people taking thyroid medications without medical supervision. Number 3. Tulsi, the holy basil. Tulsi, Ocimum sanctum, is so sacred in Indian tradition that it is worshipped as a goddess. Every traditional Hindu home has a Tulsi plant, and daily prayers are offered to it. But the reverence for this plant is not just spiritual. Ayurvedic texts describe Tulsi as one of the most powerful adaptogens and immune-supporting herbs. It has been used for respiratory complaints, fever, stress, digestion, and skin conditions for over 3,000 years. Modern research has thoroughly validated its traditional uses. A comprehensive 2017 review published in the Journal of Ayurveda and Integrative Medicine compiled evidence from multiple clinical studies confirming that Tulsi has measurable antimicrobial, antiviral, antifungal, anti-inflammatory, immunomodulatory, and adaptogenic effects. A separate study found that Tulsi extract was comparable to clomiphene citrate in inducing ovulation in women with PCOS. The compound eugenol, along with ursolic acid and rosmarinic acid, appears to be responsible for most of its effects. A plant that Indian families worship turns out to contain one of the most scientifically validated combinations of bioactive compounds in all of herbal medicine. Tulsi is most commonly consumed as a tea. Steep 1 tablespoon of fresh or dried leaves in hot water for 5 to 10 minutes. It can be taken daily as a general tonic. Number 4. Neem, the village pharmacy. And this is where Ayurvedic medicine starts revealing how deep the knowledge actually goes. Neem Azadirakta indica is called the village pharmacy in India because nearly every part of the tree has medicinal uses. Leaves, bark, seeds, oil, twigs, and flowers are all used in Ayurveda for different purposes. Traditional texts prescribe neem for skin conditions, infections, diabetes, dental health, and as general detoxifier. Neem twigs are still used as natural toothbrushes across rural India. Modern research has confirmed a remarkable range of bioactive compounds. A 2020 review published in the Journal of Functional Foods summarized studies showing that neem contains nimbin, azadirachtin, nimbolide, and dozens of other compounds with confirmed antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and insecticidal properties. Clinical studies have supported its traditional use for oral health, skin conditions, and blood sugar regulation. The tree that Indian villages treated as a free pharmacy turns out to produce compounds that modern biotechnology companies are actively patenting. Neem is most commonly used externally for skin conditions and in dental care. For internal use, neem capsules are available, but should be used under guidance due to potential effects on liver and reproductive health. Number 5. Ginger, the universal medicine. The Ayurvedic name for ginger is Vishwabhesaj, which literally means the universal medicine. That is not hyperbole. Ginger, Zingiber officinale, is one of the most prescribed plants in all of Ayurveda. It was used for nausea, digestive problems, inflammation, colds, arthritis, and as an essential ingredient in countless herbal formulations. A systematic review published in 2019 in the journal Nutrients compiled evidence from dozens of clinical trials and confirmed that ginger is effective for nausea during pregnancy, chemotherapy-induced nausea, motion sickness, and post-operative nausea. Additional studies have shown significant benefits for osteoarthritis pain, muscle soreness after exercise, and blood sugar management in type 2 diabetes. The active compounds gingerol and shogaol have confirmed anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties. The universal medicine. After 5,000 years of use and hundreds of clinical trials, ginger lives up to its Sanskrit name. Fresh ginger tea is prepared by simmering sliced ginger root in water for 10 minutes. For nausea, a typical effective dose is about 1 gram of ginger extract daily. Number 6. Brahmi, the herb of consciousness. The name Brahmi comes from Brahman, the Sanskrit word for universal consciousness. That tells you everything about how this plant was viewed in ancient India. Brahmi, Bacopa monnieri, was considered the ultimate brain tonic in Ayurveda, used to enhance memory, learning, concentration, intelligence, and meditation practice. Ancient sages reportedly consumed it to help them memorize the enormously lengthy Vedic texts, which in some cases contained hundreds of thousands of verses that had to be recited word perfect. This was the study aid of ancient India. So, what does modern science say about a plant traditionally used to boost intelligence? A 2014 randomized controlled trial found that Bacopa significantly improved verbal learning, delayed word recall, and memory acquisition compared to placebo. A 2012 study involving children diagnosed with ADHD found that 225 milligrams of Bacopa daily for 6 months reduced symptoms in 85% of participants, including improvements in restlessness, focus, distractibility, and impulse control. Additional research has confirmed cognitive benefits in elderly populations, particularly for verbal memory and information processing speed. The active compounds, triterpenoid saponins called bacosides, appear to enhance acetylcholine activity in the brain, promote the growth of nerve endings in the hippocampus, and protect brain cells from oxidative damage. The herb that ancient sages used to memorize epic scriptures turns out to actually work on memory. That is one of those moments where ancient wisdom and modern neuroscience shake hands across the millennia. Brahmi is typically taken as an extract standardized to 50% bacosides, at a dose of 300 milligrams daily. Full cognitive benefits usually appear after 8 to 12 weeks of consistent use, which is another thing Ayurvedic texts got right. They specifically warned that Brahmi works gradually, not immediately. Number 7. Triphala, the 3 fruits of longevity. Triphala is not a single plant, but rather a blend of 3, and it deserves its own entry because of its extraordinary place in Ayurvedic medicine. The word means 3 fruits, and it combines amalaki, babhitaki, and haritaki in equal proportions. Ancient Ayurvedic texts call it Maha-aushadhi, meaning the supreme medicine. The Karaka Samhita, one of the foundational texts of Ayurveda dating to around 300 BC, states that if a person consumes Triphala daily with honey and ghee, they can live 100 years free from disease, aging, and infirmity. That is a genuinely bold claim, and for most of the history of Western medicine, it was dismissed as folklore. But modern research is starting to take Triphala seriously, and the results are interesting. A 2018 clinical study confirmed that Triphala improves gut motility, relieves constipation, and crucially promotes the growth of beneficial gut bacteria. That last finding is significant because the gut microbiome has become one of the hottest areas in modern medical research, and its influence on everything from immunity to mental health to longevity is now well documented. A separate study found improvements in lipid profiles and blood sugar regulation. The formulation is extraordinarily rich in tannins, flavonoids, vitamin C, and polyphenols, and research suggests it has antioxidant, antimicrobial, immunomodulatory, and and anti-cancer properties in preclinical studies. An ancient blend of 3 fruits that modern gut microbiome research is now confirming. 5,000 years later, and the Karaka Samhita is still getting validated by peer-reviewed journals. Triphala is typically taken as a powder mixed with warm water before bed, or in capsule form. A standard dose is around 1 to 2 grams daily. Number 8. Boswellia, the Indian frankincense. Now, here is one that most people have never heard of, and you are about to understand why that is going to change. Boswellia serrata, known as shalaki in Ayurveda, is the Indian cousin of the frankincense tree that we covered in our Egyptian herbs video. Ayurvedic texts prescribe Boswellia for joint pain, inflammation, respiratory problems, and as a rejuvenating herb for painful conditions. A landmark 2018 review published in Arthritis Research and Therapy compiled evidence from multiple clinical trials and concluded that Boswellia serrata extract has anti-inflammatory effects comparable to conventional NSAIDs like ibuprofen, without the associated stomach damage and cardiovascular risks. Additional studies have shown benefits for osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, and inflammatory bowel disease. The active compounds, boswellic acids, inhibit the enzyme 5-lipoxygenase, a key driver of inflammatory diseases. Ayurveda has been using this for joint pain for thousands of years. Modern rheumatology is now seriously studying it as a potential alternative to NSAIDs. Boswellia is typically standardized to contain 60 to 65% boswellic acids. Studies have used doses between 300 and 1,200 milligrams daily. Number 9. Shatavari, the queen of herbs. Shatavari, Asparagus racemosus, is considered the queen of herbs in Ayurvedic medicine, primarily valued as a female reproductive tonic. The name translates roughly to "she who has 100 husbands," suggesting its traditional use for fertility, vitality, and sexual health. Ayurvedic texts prescribe Shatavari for menstrual irregularities, menopause, infertility, and to support lactation in nursing mothers. A 2024 comprehensive review published in the journal Curious examined multiple clinical studies and found evidence that Asparagus racemosus shows promise for treating dysmenorrhea, lactation support, and infertility, with effects comparable to clomiphene citrate in stimulating follicular growth. The active compounds, shatavarins, and steroidal saponins appear to modulate estrogen receptors and have antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and immunomodulatory effects. The ancient queen of Ayurvedic herbs turns out to have measurable effects on the reproductive system that clinical research is now confirming. Shatavari is typically taken as a powder mixed with warm milk, or in capsule form. A standard dose is around 1 to 2 grams daily. We are halfway through the list. And the remaining herbs are where Ayurvedic medicine starts overlapping with the most cutting-edge areas of modern pharmaceutical research. Number 10. Gugul, the tree of gold. Gugul Commiphora mucul is a small thorny tree whose resin has been used in Ayurveda for over 3,000 years. Ancient texts describe it as a powerful treatment for obesity, high cholesterol, arthritis, and as an anti-aging rasayana. In fact, one Ayurvedic text from around 600 BC describes exactly what we now call metabolic syndrome and prescribes Gugul as the primary treatment. That is 3,000 years before modern medicine coined the term. Modern research has focused on gugulsterones, the primary active compounds. A 2018 review compiled evidence showing that Gugul extract can significantly reduce total cholesterol and LDL cholesterol, with mechanisms involving thyroid function and bile acid receptor modulation. Additional studies have shown anti-inflammatory and weight management effects. An ancient text identified a condition 3,000 years early and prescribed the correct plant for it. Number 11. Amla, the Indian gooseberry. Amla, or amalaki, is considered one of the most important rasayana herbs in Ayurveda. It is one of the 3 fruits in Triphala, but it also deserves standalone recognition. Amla contains the highest concentration of vitamin C of almost any plant source on Earth, along with powerful antioxidants like gallic acid, ellagic acid, and emblycanins. Ayurvedic texts describe it as the best single herb for excess heat in the body and one of the finest rejuvenators for every tissue. A 2020 review in the journal Biomedicine and Pharmacotherapy confirmed that amla has demonstrated antioxidant, hepatoprotective, anti-inflammatory, anti-diabetic, and cholesterol-lowering effects in multiple studies. Research has also shown potential cardioprotective and neuroprotective benefits. This is the herb that the ancient sages said could reverse aging. Modern research is not quite ready to make that claim, but the antioxidant data is undeniably impressive. Number 12. Gotu kola, the herb of enlightenment. Gotu kola, Centella asiatica, has a fascinating place in Asian medicine. Ayurvedic tradition reveres it as a brain and nerve tonic, and in Chinese medicine it earned its reputation as a longevity herb when a legendary herbalist named Li Qingyuan supposedly lived over 200 years, consuming it daily. Whether that story is true is beside the point. The research is what matters. A 2016 study found that Gotu kola reduced anxiety caused by sleep deprivation and reduced brain inflammation in animal models. Human studies have shown improvements in cognitive function, wound healing, and venous circulation. A 2020 review confirmed its use for chronic venous insufficiency with significant clinical benefit. The active compounds, asiaticoside and madecassoside, have documented neuroprotective, anti-inflammatory, and wound healing effects. Topical Gotu kola is now used in dermatology for scar healing and is included in many clinical skincare products. The herb of enlightenment turns out to have measurable effects on the brain and skin that no one expected. Number 13. Cardamom, the queen of spices. Cardamom, Eleutheria cardamomum, is the third most expensive spice in the world after saffron and vanilla. Ayurvedic medicine uses it for digestion, respiratory complaints, bad breath, and as an aromatic ingredient in complex formulations. A 2017 clinical trial found that cardamom supplementation significantly reduced blood pressure in pre-hypertensive patients. Additional research has shown benefits for managing PCOS symptoms and nausea during pregnancy. The essential oil contains cineole and terpenyl acetate with confirmed antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory effects. A spice your grandmother added to desserts turns out to have measurable cardiovascular benefits. Number 14. Fenugreek, the sacred seed. Fenugreek, Trigonella phoenum graecum, has been used in Ayurveda for digestive health, blood sugar regulation, and as a galactagogue for nursing mothers. A 2020 systematic review confirmed that fenugreek supplementation significantly reduced fasting blood glucose, HbA1c, and total cholesterol in people with type 2 diabetes. Additional studies have shown benefits for testosterone levels, muscle strength, and menstrual discomfort. The active compounds, including triguanylline and 4-hydroxyisoleucine, appear to improve insulin sensitivity, a kitchen spice that modern endocrinology is now studying as a potential adjunct therapy for diabetes. Number 15. Long pepper, the forgotten spice. Long pepper, Pipalai in Sanskrit, was once more valuable than black pepper in ancient trade routes. Ayurveda prescribes it for respiratory complaints, digestive problems, and as a powerful bioavailability enhancer for other herbs. It is one of the 3 spices in the classical Ayurvedic formulation called Trikatu. A 2018 review confirmed that piperine, the active compound also found in black pepper, significantly increases the bioavailability of many nutrients and drugs. Additional studies have shown anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, and anti-cancer properties. The forgotten spice that ancient physicians prized above gold still has real pharmacological value today. Number 16. Haritaki, the king of medicines. While Triphala gets most of the attention, one of its 3 components deserves its own place on this list. Haritaki, Terminalia cebula, is called the king of medicines in Ayurveda. The Tibetan medical Buddha is traditionally depicted holding a haritaki fruit. Ancient texts prescribe it for digestive disorders, longevity, and as a rejuvenating tonic. A 2019 review in the journal Biomedicine and Pharmacotherapy compiled evidence showing haritaki has confirmed antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal, antioxidant, anti-diabetic, and cardioprotective activities. It has also shown potential neuroprotective effects in preclinical studies of Alzheimer's disease. When the medical Buddha himself is depicted holding a plant, that is a civilization telling you to pay attention to it. Number 17, Mucuna, the velvet bean, Mucuna pruriens, known in Ayurveda as kapikachu and sometimes called velvet bean or cowhage, contains something that genuinely defies easy explanation. It naturally produces L-DOPA, the direct biochemical precursor to dopamine. This is not a trace amount. Mucuna seeds contain between 4 and 6% L-DOPA by weight, which is an astonishingly high concentration for a naturally occurring compound. Ayurvedic texts going back at least 2,000 years describe Mucuna as a treatment for a condition called Kampavata, which is characterized by tremors, rigidity, and slow movement. If you read that description today, you recognize it immediately. Kampavata is Parkinson's disease. Think about what this means. 2,000 years before anyone knew what dopamine was, 2,000 years before the first neuron was observed under a microscope, 2,000 years before modern neurology existed as a field, Ayurvedic physicians were prescribing a plant that naturally contains the exact biochemical precursor to the neurotransmitter whose deficiency causes the disease they were treating. How is that possible? We genuinely do not know. A 2004 study published in the Journal of Neurology, Neurosurgery, and Psychiatry, and a subsequent 2014 study in the journal Movement Disorders found that Mucuna pruriens produced clinical improvements. Number 18, Ashwagandha plus rhodiola, the adaptogen stack. I told you at the beginning that number 18 might be the most valuable adaptogen discovery ever. Here it is. You already know about ashwagandha from number 2. But modern research has uncovered something fascinating about how ancient adaptogens work together. The concept of adaptogens, plants that help the body resist stress, comes directly from the Ayurvedic concept of rasayana. In recent years, scientists have been studying combinations of adaptogenic herbs, particularly ashwagandha paired with rhodiola, to understand their synergistic effects on the stress response. A 2020 study published in the journal Medicines found that combination adaptogen protocols produce stronger effects on cortisol regulation, energy, and cognitive performance than single herbs used alone. The key insight is this: Ayurveda has been combining adaptogens for 5,000 years, understanding instinctively that multi-herb formulations work differently than single herbs. Modern pharmacology is now catching up to what Ayurvedic practitioners have been teaching all along. The entire field of adaptogen research exists because ancient Indian physicians documented a category of plants that Western medicine never had a name for. And now, dozens of research teams around the world are studying what Ayurveda figured out 5,000 years before the term adaptogen was even coined. Before we wrap up, here are quick preparation notes for the herbs we did not cover in detail. Guggul is typically taken in capsule form, standardized for Guggulsterones, at around 500 milligrams twice daily. Amla can be consumed fresh, as juice, as powder, or in capsule form. Go-to cola tea is made by steeping 1 to 2 teaspoons of dried leaves in hot water for 10 to 15 minutes. Cardamom can be chewed directly, added to tea, or taken as an extract. Fenugreek seeds can be soaked overnight and consumed on an empty stomach, or taken in capsule form. Haritaki is available as powder or capsules, typically taken at bedtime. Mucuna is available as standardized extracts, but should only be used under professional supervision because of its L-DOPA content. And always choose Ayurvedic products from GMP-certified manufacturers to avoid potential heavy metal contamination. And that completes our journey through 18 Ayurvedic plants that modern science has finally tested. From turmeric being studied in over 10,000 research papers to Mucuna naturally producing a Parkinson's drug precursor, the ancient physicians of India were not guessing. They were making clinical observations with an accuracy that in some cases took modern science thousands of years to explain. The foundational texts of Ayurveda, the Charaka Samhita and the Sushruta Samhita, describe detailed treatment protocols for hundreds of conditions using combinations of the plants we covered today. But I want to be honest about something. Ayurveda is not flawless. Some traditional formulations contain heavy metals, and quality control in the herbal supplement industry is inconsistent. Modern science has validated much of what Ayurveda teaches, but not all of it. The responsible approach is to treat Ayurvedic herbs as a complement to, not a replacement for, evidence-based medicine, and to source products carefully. Still, what these ancient physicians got right is nothing short of remarkable. 5,000 years of continuous observation, documentation, and refinement produced a pharmacopoeia that modern research keeps validating. That deserves our attention. If this changed the way you think about ancient medicine, subscribe to the Green Domain, because next we are putting biblical plants to the test with modern science. Drop a comment and tell me which Ayurvedic remedy surprised you the most. And if you missed our Greek and Egyptian videos, both links are in the description. They pair perfectly with this one. Ancient wisdom, modern proof, real results. I will see you in the next one.